We are now 2 days completed at the 2020 World Junior Championships. In this video, we're going to take a look at the results so far, discuss some really good goals, as well as some upsets. We'll discuss all the latest coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have 2 full days now of results for the World Junior Championship to take a look at here and discuss what has happened so far. We've had lots of great hockey, some very strong games, some really nice goals, some upsets. We've got a lot to discuss, so let's dive right in. Now, on the first day of action, we saw our first upset early on with host country Czech Republic defeating Team Russia by a score of 4-3. Now, as I mentioned in the preview and prediction videos that I completed before the tournament got underway, their goaltending and youngster Yaroslav Askarov was going to be huge in helping them get far in this tournament, and whether or not he could step up to the plate and deliver a strong performance very well might be the difference here on how far they go. He certainly looked a little bit shaky early on, didn't get the result he was looking for in the opening game, and therefore the host team upsets Team Russia for the first upset of the tournament. From the Czech Republic, Jenik had a nice game as well, putting up a few points on the board, and the host country was off to a great start. I know I predicted him not to do very well in this tournament in my other videos, but it certainly got off to a flying start here and certainly proved me wrong so far. We'll see how much other damage they can do in this tournament, but they are going to have some other very tough games coming up, including games against Team Canada and Team USA, which will certainly be another significant test for them. We'll see how far they can go. In the first day of action, we also had Team Switzerland defeating Team Kazakhstan by a score of 5-3, and in probably the most entertaining game of the day, at least for my part, Team Canada defeated Team USA by a score of 6-4. Now, this is a game that did not get off to a great start for Team Canada. They get into penalty trouble early, and Team USA's power play took full advantage early on, getting up to a 2-0 lead. However, Team Canada stormed back from the halfway point of the first period on all the way through the end of the second. Team Canada really started to dominate the play. They started to play a lot more physical and certainly pick up the pace, getting a lot more shots, more opportunities, and eventually scored 4 unanswered goals to take a 4-2 lead. But then in the third period, Team USA came back to make it interesting, and at one point late into the game actually had it tied up 4-4 after another power play goal from forward Shane Pinto with his second of the game. But only 7 seconds after US tied it up, Canadian forward and projected first overall pick Alexis Lafreniere took matters into his own hands off a bad turnover by USA defender K'Andre Miller and scored the eventual winning goal, putting Canada up 5-4. Canada went on to later add an empty netter by Ty Dellandrea, and it went on to a 6-4 victory for a very, very highly entertaining game. And in my prediction video, I did predict a potential Canada versus US final. So if that were to be the case, these games are always highly entertaining, very close games, and I'm sure the US will be out for revenge if that indeed does happen. But Alexis Lafreniere was a dominant force in this game, putting up 4 points, and really showed why he's miles ahead of everybody else in his draft class. Other Team Canada members like Barrett Hayton had a really strong game. I thought goaltender Nico Dawes settled in, but it was a little shaky early on, but not real bad. He really, for the most part, you can't blame him on much of those goals at all. There were power play goals where he really couldn't see well, and I don't really think you could fault him at all. But overall, Team Canada had a pretty solid effort all around. Shane Pinto was the player of the game for Team USA. Certainly had a really strong performance. I was very confused a little bit why they didn't better utilize sniper Cole Caulfield, who really wasn't even getting first power play time and was really not being played very much. He seemed to be more of a fourth line player, getting limited minutes, and I just found that really confusing as to why he wasn't getting any ice time with Alex Turcotte, who he plays with at the University of Wisconsin as well. Of course, they played together previously, not as regularly, but through the U.S. National Team Development Program as well. Not really sure what was up with that from the coaching staff, but either way, Caulfield was not really much of a story in this game at all like I thought he would be. I really thought he'd play a bigger role for the U.S., but you can't do that if you're not given the opportunity. Now, the other big game on the first day of action was Team Sweden battling Team Finland, which saw the game go to overtime and Sweden picking up a big 3-2 victory. Now, in this game as well, we also saw an extremely pretty lacrosse-style goal from Nils Hoglander. He's known to do this before. Really solid goal like we've seen Andrei Svechnikov do in the NHL a couple of times this season as well. Sweden went on to hold their record here for round-robin consecutive victories. They haven't lost a round robin game. It's been a really long time. I want to say it's upwards of 9 or 10 years, but unfortunately there's not very many gold medals during that stretch either. They seem to do extremely well during the round robin play, but have not been able to come up big very often once we get to the playoff round. So we'll see if that can change this year. But Sweden pulls out an overtime victory over the Finns to open their tournament in the Czech Republic. Now, on the second day of action, we saw Kazakhstan drop their second straight game with a 3-1 loss to Team Slovakia, so that's not a huge shocker. I did suggest here that Kazakhstan likely would finish last in their group and likely play in the relegation game. They are the team I do think is most likely to be relegated. I just don't know if they're quite up to the standard they play here amongst the other 9 teams in this tournament. They've certainly come a long ways over the years with their progress as a nation in hockey, but I'm not quite sure they're strong enough to stay around and do much better than that for this time of year. So I guess we will see here. The other big game here today was Team USA battling Team Germany. The Americans did come out with a 6-3 win, but early on Germany did give them a good scare, and as I mentioned in my prediction and preview videos, I think Team Germany was going to be a lot stronger than many people had thought. Early on we saw some of their younger players like Stützle, who's going to be a top pick in the 2020 draft, have a really solid game. Dominic Bonk was really solid as well, and at one point they had the Americans in a really tightly, closely contested game early on, where the Americans did pull away later into the game for a 6-3 win. Still didn't see much out of Caulfield. We did see Oliver Wahlstrom come through with a big goal, which was certainly good for his confidence. Good to see the scoring spread out a little bit more. Trevor Zegras had an awesome game for the U.S., putting up 4 points. I thought he was also pretty solid in the first game against Canada as well. So I guess we will see here how the U.S. can move forward, but certainly some confusing methods here by the coaching staff in my opinion, but it did at least bounce back to beat Germany, but with a bit of a scare early on. So the Germans are certainly better than many expected, and the U.S. so far, at least based on my opinions, haven't quite performed as well as I thought they would, even though they did pull out a victory in a loss against Canada. I think there's lots of room for improvement from that American squad. The blue line hasn't quite been as strong as I originally thought it could be. So let me know what your favorite moments are so far in this 2020 World Junior Championship tournament. I know that we're only 2 days in, but we've had all kinds of great action, all kinds of some cool moments here, some nice goals. We had some upsets, a really bit of a variety of everything so far. We're heading into action on day 3 here, starting tomorrow, as we have a bunch more games on the schedule. So let me know what your favorite moments are so far. We can discuss further down in the comments. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it as well. I appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.